In this video we are going to talk about conflict of interest in the workplace. Have you ever heard of conflict of interest in the workplace? Or have you ever been faced with a decision where your personal interest seems to be in conflict with your loyalty to the company? Where what seems good for you, may not be good for the company. Conflict of interest is a situation in which a person or organization is involved in multiple interests of which could possibly corrupt the motivation of the individual or organization. A conflict of interest arises in the workplace when an employee has competing interests or loyalties that either is or potentially can be at odds with each other. It happens to a lot of us, and it can be stressful as we struggle in making the best decisions.
Examples. Example 1. A relative or close friend reports to a supervisor who affects their job responsibilities, salary, and promotions. Example 2. A male manager dates a female employee who reports to him or vice versa. Example 3. A purchasing agent accepts trips and gifts from a vendor and then selects the vendor's products for purchase by the company.
Types of conflict of interest. Relationship. Romance. This is when parties are romantically involved and the relationship itself conflicts with the workplace, employer, or another's interest. Romantic partners involve a strong emotional attachment and close connection between them, conflicting with the workplace policy. Relational conflict of interest. This is when a businessman hires a family member for a job and gives them bonuses or favoritism. Let's say your nephew works at your company. You make your nephew the boss instead of another qualified employee simply because he is family. Financial conflict of interest. It is where workers stand to gain financially from their activities at the workplace which conflicts with the organization or other workers' interest. The acceptance of gifts, including travel, entertainment, particularly from a person who is seeking to obtain contractual or other business of financial arrangements with the organization, example a vendor who has interests that might be substantially affected by the performance or non-performance of the employee's duty. Confidential. This is a serious conflict of interest which involves working with the organization's competitor or revealing information such as trade secret to a third party. Mike is a boss of a logistics company. He does not keep his company's vital information confidential. What he only does is to post customers' confidential details on social media for fun, or send vital information from the company to third parties for personal gains. Mike cannot receive favorable effects even though he make a great effort. Besides, he always receives some spam and unwanted calls, which all drive him to crazy.
Let's now talk about the effect of conflict of interest in the workplace. What could you probably think will be the effect of conflict of interest in the workplace? Let's listen to Fred as his teacher explains to him some of the effect of conflict of interest in the workplace.
Good morning, sir. Please can you help me
Good
with
morning,
something?
Frederick. What can I help you with?
Sir, what are the effects of conflict of interest in the workplace?
Oh, I see. That's really a pretty nice question. There are a lot of effects of conflict of interest in the organization, but I will mention a few. Well, corruption is one major effect of conflict of interest in the workplace. As you know well, corruption is when an individual or an organization takes advantage of the opportunity and abuses their position for a private gain. Also, conflict of interest can lead to bias. This occurs when an employer or employee makes an unfair decision and selection among individuals or organizations. It creates an impartial consideration in an issue in the organization, which brings about misunderstanding. Finally, it leads to inefficiency. Inefficiency is when you spend more than the needed resources in order to arrive at the same result. Now Fred, do you have any more questions for me? I have a lecture that I have to attend.
No sir, thank you for your answers. I'm very grateful.
Alright then, goodbye Fred, have a nice day.
Goodbye sir.
Conflict of interest is unavoidable. They exist in every level of an organization, and it occurs more frequently as you look further up the corporate ladder. The key challenge to conflict of interest is subjectivity, because unfortunately as humans, we turn to be far more subjective than we really care to discuss. On the solutions to conflict of interest in the organization, we need to educate employees to consider conflict of interest policy and encourage employees to disclose their conflict of interest as they arise, but also request that they sign an annual certification stating they have read the written policy and they have actually disclosed all of their conflicts. Conflict of interest are all about relationships, so the best detection methods involves trying to identify those relationships, and data mining tools can be very effective for that purpose. It could be comparing employee contact information with vendor information, looking for duplicate addresses, phone numbers, bank accounts, text ID numbers, but also consider using social media and other publicly available databases to identify relationships.